Welcome to Eureka Street Crypto. This is my anti-professional crypto channel. I'm just a barely sane dude who fell down the cryptocurrency rabbit hole. This channel is my fumbling attempt to communicate myself outside my own head about my journey in the crypto space. It is basically my brain dump. None of this is actual financial advice.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Eureka John at Eureka Street Crypto, broadcasting live from Lee, Texas, just a suburb outside Austin. Nothing special to everybody, but something special to me now after being here, I guess, almost 2 years. And today I have another guest on my show. I've just been on a roll lately. I'm in this crypto space, and this is my video blog, aka Brain Dump, where I just kind of process and talk about things that I learned in crypto on a day-to-day basis. I started this podcast as an experiment to just figure out, because my philosophy is in order to learn something, best to probably try to teach it, because then you're on the spot and you absorb things. First, you can absorb things through intake, through reading, through listening, through however. But the other half of the learning a lot of times comes through you processing and talking about it. And that's what this channel is all about. And that's what I've been trying to do this past, I guess, almost 2 years now that I've been doing this. I'm episode number 429, and the crypto space has changed a lot. I've changed a lot. I've met a lot of cool people, joined DAOs, met people on the internet, on all various social media platforms, and just everywhere. And they've helped me along on my crypto journey. They've provided me some good advice, some bad advice. I've recorded everything, good, bad, and ugly. And here I am. And today I have somebody that I met randomly on the internet. And I don't really know much about him, but that's the spirit of this whole show. It's an experiment. And what I do know is that he's a fellow Austinite and involved in improv. So one of my favorite things to watch is improv, although I've never had the balls to do it, and I've never, I really have zero skills in it except for what I've learned on this show. This show is kind of me. I mean, I'm not an introvert, but I'm not the best public speaker either. So it's helped me with this. And I imagine being up there on stage can help you a lot as well. ProofofBeans, thanks for jumping on this show this morning and doing this experiment with me. And in the spirit of improv, we don't really have an agenda. We are just going to talk a little bit about crypto and about life. And I want to hear about you and what brought you here, what brought you into the crypto space. What your entry point into crypto is. I know a lot of people come into crypto from various angles, so I'm interested to hear it all. Well,
hey, yeah, thanks so much for having me on. Gosh, there's so much in that intro.
I know, lots to unpack.
No. I wasn't. Yeah, that's not a critique. I love it because I just got excited. So, like, the learning part of it, that's my favorite part, and then the teaching is like that little bonus. But when you are in a ecosystem where you constantly have to learn, or you'll just sink, that is a really hyper aware place to be. I feel like, just in general. And it can be chaotic. So I totally agree that when you start teaching, it helps you organize like the chaos you're experiencing in real time. It's just, that is like a huge part of why I love crypto, honestly.
Why you love crypto? Okay, I thought you were going to say why you love improv.
Well, see, improv is very. Improv is different because there's nothing like recordable about it other than if you recorded it, right? So I feel like it balances me out for sure with all the stress of crypto. Going and doing improv is 100% therapeutic. Like, I would absolutely recommend that for everybody who trades crypto. That's not to say everybody's stressed out, but it's kind of a thing. So I guess the way I first got into crypto is just this dude. I had to do sales right when I got to Austin. I had graduated with an MFA in playwriting from Ohio University, landed in Austin, didn't know anyone, and I kind of had to take the first job. So I took one of those bottom of the barrel, like, just like really sneaky sales type of environment with a big sales floor and everybody's competing.
Oh man.
Had Improv, boy, did it enable me to bag, like, for just a little bit. In that environment, like, it just really opened things up for me, and I was able to sell shit. I didn't like what I was selling, so I only did that for a while, for maybe, I don't know, a year probably. And then I kind of hopped around from startup to startup, which taught me quite a bit about tech. And then I was tracked down by a fellow sales at first, really scumbag job. He tracks me down, and we're talking about, so he tracks me down. We go out for drinks. I was wanting to start a business around teaching improv to sales teams, basically, and use it as use it as templates for how to speak to people, how to maneuver in a conversation, certainly to get warmed up in the morning and do like team building stuff. It works in so many ways, right? Honestly, it was like really touching. He really believed in it, and he believed in me. But he's someone who I knew could get the things that I'm not. He can do the things that I can't. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. He knows how to play the game. So yeah, but things didn't work out because of COVID. And I went full-time crypto. That dude introduced me to Bitcoin. And that's pretty much how it went.
Okay.
From there,
you got in from the big TA, technical analysis. So for the people on the audience, technical analysis is when you look at charts, you explore some of the fundamentals of graphs, and you analyze the patterns of the highs and lows. You put lines on those graphs, and you know, a lot of people draw some funny pictures: head and shoulders, cups and handles, ascending and descending wedgies is what I like to call them, because it can screw you pretty bad sometimes. And then and you look for patterns on those charts. So tell me a little bit about that. What attracted you to getting into crypto from that angle?
So I mean, if I'm being completely honest, obviously money. And then I was just like, okay, this is something I can see in front of me. There are rules and systems that you can use to put probability in your favor, right? That sentence sounds legit, right? Obviously it gets a lot more as, partly because everybody makes it sound like it can be relied upon always, right? Like, everybody's very positive about the concept of TA when actually trading is just a really low probability game to begin with, right? So I got in through that marketing. Like, I was like, oh, I can do this. And sort of, like, I admit I was reeled in by TA experts that wanted to make me rich. So the more I did it, the more I started meeting people and like sort of trading, charts back and forth, learning different indicators. And then I would say over the last 3 years, I've gone from TA to more like hunting for airdrops and stuff like that. So I backed away from TA a little bit, which kind of helped me because I was able to see it from afar and simplify it. And I was like, okay, well, I've been away for a month. What are the first 3 indicators that I want to see? And then I put that on a chart, and to be super cheesy, I just let the chart start telling me a story from the highest time frame down to the lowest time frame.
No, that's not cheesy. That's actually cool. I want to hear, because that's something that I don't really understand. I've always kind of jokingly said TA is like the village shaman sticking a stick in a pile of poop and stirring it around and determining the weather patterns from that. But like, how can you look at the chart and have it tell you something? And people do this in religion too. They look at sacred texts, and they a lot of times they'll interpret themselves into that text rather than let the text read back to them. And coming from a seminary background, obviously I'm going to go down that tangent. But tell me a little bit about how the charts speak to you.
So if you look at an hourly chart, and I mean, I feel like this is probably something that anyone starting TA, like probably 80% of people, it's going to take them a while to understand why you should just, if it's the beginning of the day, beginning of the week, whenever you open up a chart first, you should look at a high time frame. Like, get a monthly chart up there, because there are going to be levels that aren't necessarily around or they're not apparent on the hourly chart, right?
Okay.
So I determine from the monthly, do I think this is going up or down? And then I usually try to find just the most apparent first glance level that just looks like, okay, that's definitely the most important level on this chart, right? So I'll just put that line, put a little in there, and I'll go down and do the same thing. And you'll find that, the monthly can look bullish, the weekly can look kind of scary, and then the 3-day can look like super bullish. And then as you get down, it's like, oh, wow. So if you're plotting your high time frame levels, it puts context around the smaller time frames, right?
Okay.
Do you know what I mean by time frame, right? Like 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour?
Yeah. I look on CoinGecko and I see 1 hour, 24 hour, and 7-day charts, and that's what they give you. So if you look at any of those type of market cap ranking websites.
Mm-hmm.
So you use those charts, or do you have specialized software to do that with?
Oh, the Trading View is kind of like the Kleenex of charting. I highly recommend setting up an account with Trading View. It's free.
Okay.
It's a great chart. Like, it's the best thing you can use.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll poke around with some options trading or something. I've talked to some people who do nothing but Bitcoin options trading, and they do very well at it. On a day-to-day basis, they come in and they kind of take their scoop, and then they leave, and they're about in 1 hour a day doing that, and they make a hell of a lot more money than I do. So.
Really? So they day trade Bitcoin options just every day?
Yeah, calls and puts. Yeah.
I
see the gears turning.
I just didn't know there was a platform where you could do that yet. I knew Deribit, right? They have a platform, but they don't allow whatever.
See, I don't know what's allowed and not, so maybe I'm probably speaking out of turn on something.
Oh, no,
I shouldn't be. Yeah, I haven't done it yet, so.
Yeah, but TA, man, it's really helpful, even if you're not going to use it to trade.
Okay.
It just keeps you in touch with like the movement, and it's unhealthy to look at it, every 5 minutes, but yeah, it's great if you look at it once a day.
I mean, I find myself pulling up CoinGecko a lot per day. Every single time I have a spare moment, I'm looking at CoinGecko charts, and it's not that I'm trying to do TA, and it's just I'm trying to keep track of which projects are doing what to try to find overall patterns. I say that, back in the old days when we get newspapers, the first thing I would do would go to the standings for NFL and the baseball MLB standings, and I would see where my team's at and just give it a quick glance and kind of get an overall view. And that's kind of do with projects as well, to see what's doing good and, as far as rankings are concerned. But there are some low ranking projects that are, I think, very valuable. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So
do you have any pet charts? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, like, what would you say, like, your level of involvement / holding / trading, like, what kind of you come up with a lot of good projects. I watched several of your video, and like, do you just hold it to sell it in a year, or like, what's your time frame?
Well, I mean, a lot of the way I approach it is just experimentation. I like to see how things work, the levers and pulleys, the nuts and bolts. What is this DeFi project over here on Avalanche? How do you use Avalanche? Because Avalanche has a couple different types of chains, the P chain and the X chain and all that stuff. And I that's the approach I take from it. I'm not necessarily coming in trying to, like, make a bunch of money from it, even though I have here and there, and I've lost a bunch of money here and there on some crap, like the whole Wonderland.money and Abracadabra projects. I lost money on those. A lot of people did, the Ohm forks. But really, to me, it's just to see how it all works and from a Web3 point of view. And that's kind of a different angle of approaching things rather than a TA type of view where the end result, you want the end result. I mean, of course, we all want the end result to be to make money, but TA is more about, like you said, trying to, I guess, foster prediction, foster the future to your benefit through statistics and patterns. And I don't see those things. And whenever people who are really good at TA point those things out, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense, like, but it's hard people that are really good at TA.
Yeah, I mean, because it really is, all you can do is, like, sway the odds slightly in your favor and try to find, like, an entry to that, right?
Yeah.
That just, it has a great place where you can place a stop loss. So if you're trading something that's on its way up, I'm not saying it's never profitable to buy something that has just broken a major level or is an all-time high. A lot of times they keep going, right? That's absolutely valid. But you don't know where you can put the stop loss usually in that case. Does that make sense? So defining your risk on buying essentially when everybody is buying, defining the risk is usually hard, right? Again, people make money doing it, and they know they have a system for that, whatever. But for beginning traders or people that usually are coming through an entry point of hype, they buy the top, right? That's like sort of the thing. But really, what destroys them is the fact that I want to buy something that has come down to a level right here so that I can place my stop loss underneath that level. That way, if it continues going down, I know that this is probably a place where it most likely continues down. So I can put my stop loss there, but buying there means buying on a red candle, right? That is against all, like, I've been doing this for 3 years. It is still not that easy to place a limit order right at a level that looks like it could break down.
So how much does fundamental analysis come into play? Because that's really where I come from as far as looking at projects. I get all excited about buzzwords, honestly. Like, Phantom. I hear direct acyclic graph technology. I'm like, wow, it's the best thing since sliced bread. That's amazing. Yeah. It's only going to go up, and then like 2 weeks later, it's just like plopping down on the floor because Andre Cronje pulls out, and everybody loses faith, and you're just like, so it's so cool, so it's hard to, how much do you account for those fundamentals whenever you're looking, or do you just stick straight to the data on the charts?
So many people say you need to choose one or the other. And the people on the TA side say, if you're utilizing volume in your TA, these types of events will, the chart, the volume will tell you the story, right? Like which way it's going to break, because people are going to sell when they know in advance, like that whatever crazy decentralization violation happens, right? Like people that do TA say volume will guide the way through that, and that's TA, right?
So, and what do you mean by volume? Just the amount of people trading at the same time?
Yes, bought and sold each. Bought and sold coins will print a candle that is either red or green. And if more people bought, it's green. More people sold, it's red. So you can use volume in a lot of different ways compared against the price. And if you do it long enough, like you'll just start to see, okay, so that was a lot of volume for price to only go down like 3%. Seems like there are more buys in that red candle than we think. So you can just sort of see that and start to see like waves of people making decisions, essentially.
Yeah.
And it breaks up or down, and yeah, it's really fun. It's cool.
Is that what you call signals and indicators, things like that, whenever you're reading this type of literature about it?
Yeah, a signal would be inside of an indicator saying this price accomplished this thing, right? And then it'll pop up and this is your signal for an entry, or this is your signal for a stop loss or whatever, right?
And do you program bots to give you those signals at that point, or how does that work?
No, I'm too paranoid to do that. Like,
why do you mean paranoid?
Just not paranoid. I guess frightened. I should have used the real word. I'm very scared of bots.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. But so I like having control of whatever I'm doing, right? And I'm just afraid of like, I don't know, placing like 20 orders that I didn't mean to place or something like that. Like a lot of these trading platforms are complicated enough. So, I'm not going to mess with that because I'm not a giant firm with unlimited capital.
Sure. Yeah. So bots, if I'm correct, you can program almost like smart contracts to trade this X or Y once something hits A or B, basically.
Yeah. You just plug parameters in and tell the bot, these are the rules that I use. So you plug your TA analysis into a bot, and then it will just execute it for you.
Are those bots built into a platform like TradingView for anybody to use, or do you have to be kind of a special kind of genius to figure out how to program that stuff?
I think it usually happens. I don't know if they integrate with, I'm sure somehow they integrate with TradingView, but you usually have to, I think, get them on exchanges. Like you can subscribe to it, and
yeah. But that's not something you do. So,
no.
I mean, you said you like to be more in control of that. Back to your whole improv interest. To me, improv seems to be like the complete opposite of control. You're up there, just kind of just like, figuring out what's happening, how you're going to land on your feet in whatever situation or context or conversation you're given. That's not very in control unless you learn to master it, right?
Yeah. But again, exactly what you describe is it's the therapy part of it, right? Absolute release valve. I can go in there, and once you realize that, like, there's a whole part of you kind of that you never access because you sort of grew older and pushed that like wacky side to the side, right? You don't have to access it, or you have no reason to like go really far into that place. So when you access that, to me, it just kind of like makes you more aware. It's kind of like meditating in a way, I think.
Okay.
If you can do it without trying so hard. I mean, that's, yeah.
I mean, isn't improv, and in a way, I mean, I would say learning in the whole crypto industry is kind of like improv, because everything changes so fast and is so volatile. It really forces you to act on your primal responses rather than something pre-thought out or programmed. And I mean, I did this Denver conference, and I was doing the live streaming during that whole thing. And a lot of people were panicking because some things weren't going right technically and stuff like that. But that's where I thrive. I don't thrive in planning out things. And I figured for people who maybe like to have control, to be train themselves in an atmosphere where they have zero control is very therapeutic, like you said.
Yeah. And it's funny how like everything, in my opinion, generally, if I'm trying to craft, get better at something, develop a skill, it's almost always comes down to simplifying it, right? And so the exact opposite goes on. The exact opposite of simple goes on in your mind when you step on stage. There's like 60, 70 people sitting in a theater looking at you being like, okay, what are you going to do for, like that?
Yeah.
Like you
entertain us, monkey.
But like you said, it drives you to access like primal, simplistic responses that you can absolutely control, because that has a lot of adrenaline that can be harnessed, right? And to me, it's fun because that adrenaline stimulates your mind, and your mind can go further for longer and in bigger ways. That's it. Yeah, I'm speaking very conceptually, but
I love
to your point of how. Oh yeah, that's all. I'm a very overly conceptual person, but so if I'm on stage and I'm in a scene, and I'm gonna relate this to crypto, like you were sort of relating it. So like I'm on stage, nothing has been said. You come on stage and you say, "Mr. President, your house is on fire, my friend." I didn't have any, if I'm doing improv correctly, I was not preparing to say my own thing, right? Like that should be absolutely present, and whatever comes prompts you in the direction. So now I'm the president, I'm in panic, and I have to start going through logistics of what I'm going to do. Or I could choose something else and go, completely left ball with it, but doesn't matter, because if you find momentum going somewhere, and I feel like it's the same exact way in crypto, like you said, you're knee deep in own forks, and you're like, oh my God, 3 million. I figured out that they have this treasury that's going to implode on itself. Like you can like go 100% that way. And trust me, I was there. And then all of a sudden, like Daniel, what's his name?
Danny Sesta. Yeah.
Danny Sesta, like says something crazy or, releases some info on accident. He was kind of a wild hair. Like I think I kind of knew the risk going into time. So, you know what I mean? Like, but anyway, yes, you get my point about improv. Like, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, Danny Sesta seems to be kind of an improv artist himself. I don't know if you've ever seen him talk, but
yes, I have. Also, like you were talking about before, on Andre Cronje, like, Jesus, that guy is juggling so many dramas all the time, all at once, still yelling at people, but clearly it's like, dude, you have this many problems. Maybe it's a you problem, Andre. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty, yeah. Crypto's so wild in that way. Because you don't usually have stocks that will completely implode, like because the CEO has a mental breakdown, you know what I mean, and cries in public and like starts attacking his holders.
Yeah, it's weird because for an industry that is so reliant on numbers and development and programming and coding and logic, the people in crypto are so emotionally driven and illogical at times, and just basically kids sometimes, and just jumping and acting on primal instincts. So to tie this with improv, to be able to master and be in charge of those primal responses is super helpful in an industry like crypto, I think.
I've never even thought of that. I'm serious. Like you saying that like helped me sort of paint the picture, and it's obvious, right? But that is something that I never consider. The fact that maybe like, would you interpret what you described as someone who relies on their gut more than, or yeah.
But the thing is programming, and whenever you're developing and creating smart contracts, you are trying to predict any type of future outcome with a program, and you're creating a language to make a decision whenever some kind of circumstance happens. So whenever X happens, trigger Y, and you're trying to account for every single possible type of variable whenever you're creating a smart contract or a program. And that is super logical, and that is pre-planned and pre-thinking. But whenever things don't go according to program, everybody freaks out.
Yeah. Because it's also many times like irreversible, at least in the short term, right? Because if I'm not controlling the volume, and then the volume all of a sudden goes up, like I have to figure out where's the volume control, like it's pretty amazing what people do, and just knowing that if they take the risks on the projects they love. And by the way, that's really all trading should be also. Like I heard you ranting about Shiba the other day, and it's like, if that's the game you're playing, then it's just going to be really, really, really hard for you. You know what I mean? And that is the entry point for so many people. So when you get retail money that is almost entirely based on emotion, like it's extremely predictable for people that have way more money than they do. So another way to look at trading, which it took me probably 2 or 3 years to get the concept of, like, when I'm looking at a chart. So all players are not created equal, obviously. So you've got the people that are actually moving the market. Let's just call them the dark ones. And so So they are looking at a chart and thinking, okay, what's the main level? How can we drive price down into that main level where we know a bunch of retail money is ready to just hand it right over to us, right? It's liquidity. So they want to hit a particular spot on the chart that has a ton of liquidity, which, by the way, they also have the tools to see exactly how much liquidity is there for retail. We don't have those tools. Well, kind of with order books, but yeah. So that's a good way to look at trading as well, and use TA and use improv, because they're always tricky and market can go every which way, and you have to be able to just literally shift and say, oh shit, I'm not bullish, I'm bearish, right? Just
yeah. Yeah, it takes a flexibility to change your opinion on a dime. And in a world where we are being polarized to such extremes by all types of outside forces trying to push us to those extremes, being able to change our mind and be flexible is I would say, an advantage and an amazing asset that somebody can have. They always say that the brittle tree, no matter how big it is, will break it in half in the wind, but the flexible one will continue to grow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was a lot of my sales improv workshops. Man, this stuff is also incestuous, like you can find the vibe out there, and it usually works with more than one thing if it's a really clear concept in your mind. Like I do try, just in life, because of improv, I try to be present. That's a really cliche thing.
Well, like you said, it's a meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a meditation. But being truly, truly present, I think, is a really, really hard thing to maintain consistently. Obviously, with all kinds of, like, if you're on Twitter alone, I mean, you're overwhelmed, right? So,
oh yeah,
all those things just cause your emotions to make you make bad decisions in the market because you're not present and thinking about, like, the tactical side of this and what would I do if I was the dark one. So yeah.
The dark one.
Yeah,
I love that. I'll use that from now on, and I'll try to credit you when I can. The dark ones. Yeah. So I do have a question here from somebody is watching ahead. Thanks for watching ahead. I appreciate it. He says, what are the main indicators you use when trading crypto? Do you have any main indicators, some kind of canonical guidelines that you go by?
Absolutely. The way I do it is I use 3 different, and most, I don't want to sound like I'm different, because whatever, nobody's different, but
we're all different.
I do what that's true. Sorry. I just mean traders. So a lot of people teach that you want to use, like, really complementary indicators that generally are giving you more and more granular information based on, like, some kind of setup you want, right? So people will use RSI and MACD. I use RSI. I don't use MACD because MACD is, for me, it's a much more, like, granular type of RSI in a way. So what I want to look at is RSI plus Weiss wave volume. And Weiss is spelled WEIS wave. And so what that will do at the bottom is sort of give you momentum-based waves that you can compare against the structure of price. And it will tell you if there's something just doesn't quite look right. Okay, what is it? And like I gave the example before, if you have a giant red sell wave and price only fell 2%, there's a lot of people in there absorbing the sell pressure, right? So that's what that gives me. And then I use Ichimoku, which is like, it looks super complicated, but it's actually the reason I love it is it just simplifies everything.
Yeah, Ichimoku clouds. I had a guest kind of talk about that at one point, cryptochemistry, and he's another very smart TA guy. So seems like a very fascinating concept. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No worries. The Ichimoku sounds fascinating.
Yeah. The whole way that it creates a cloud around it of some kind of, I can't describe it.
Yeah, I mean, the reason it's so great is it's doing so many calculations that you do not have to worry about. Like it's like a gigabrain telling you, like, oh, look at how price is struggling in this area where it doesn't look like there's any volume, there's no level here, and then it just knows based on calculations divided by calculations times whatever that the general consensus is that you can feel like a wave sort of moving. And yeah, you can glance at it. So like I'll go to answer your question, I use Ichimoku first. And I go to like a monthly time frame and I look at how it's telling me if price looks like it's about to hit a trend point that is going to thrust it into a cloud, right? Or is it going to do the opposite? Then I just take that, I plot my levels, and I go down, down, down. Then I look at volume, and I have levels for my Ichimoku, and I look at the volume, go down the time frames all the way down to an hour. And hopefully if I do that with like 5 or 6 coins every day, I'm going to be able to find some setups, most of the time, long or short.
So you mostly trade in altcoins, right? I don't even like the term altcoins anymore. I mean, yeah.
It's fair. I mean, I say shit coins, I guess. But.
Yeah. I mean, I do too. I mean, I don't trade, but I explore because a lot of yesterday's shite coin is today's, is the next Ethereum in a lot of cases, or something in the top, 50 of CoinGecko or Coin Market Cap. So you know what you're going to get. And there's a lot of experimental concepts out there. And that's one thing that I love about the altcoin space is just the exploration of, say, for instance, Near protocol is in shards, and Zilliqa was one of the first shard tokens. And I did very well on Zilliqa because I was investing in the sharding technology. And I thought that was really cool. And it ended up doing well. And then I sold it off. And then now Zilliqa is not anything of real significance anymore, but it had its time. And yeah, so it looks like you're watching for things like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Catalysts. Again, I do listen to the news, right? I let it affect me because it's different than stocks in that there's not so much immediately going on around a stock that's not historically like normal. But with crypto, there are more immediate threats, there are more immediate catalysts, like all of these news events absolutely control the price, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to remember, like TA is not about controlling price. And I've never said that before, but it makes sense because when you first start, you're almost like when you're planting your levels and your entry and your take profit, it sort of feels like No. This is exactly what was on that video. Like literally, this is exactly what was on. No, stop going down. That's not what you're, and it's like, you think you control the price almost.
Yeah.
In a way, right? But yeah, so like, I do listen to news. I listen for catalysts. I would say, having heard you speak, I go probably half as far as you do with research. So for instance, do you know Octopus Network on Near?
I've seen it. That's the interoperability aspect of it. Am I correct? Okay.
Yeah. To me, it kind of sounded like Dot, but cheaper. Like the parachain stuff isn't like all hyped and super expensive, but you can build dApps and customize those chains. It's interoperable with Atom, but it's native to Near. Okay. And I think even Dot. But yeah, like I see something like that and I do a little reading and, you just have more of a fundamental understanding of like how all these systems, I feel like, go, how they would fit in an ecosystem and eventually merge, right? Like, I wish I did, but certain projects do make sense to me, like IMX, Immutable X. Just right off the bat, like I'm like, okay, I get it. Ethereum fees suck. Game needs to build. Easy, right?
And then using Starkware too, a brand new technology,
Right.
But at the same time, somebody can. The first mover is not always the one that's going to carry it in the long run, and most oftentimes it's not the first mover in a technology. It's usually somebody who takes that and does something else with it. So I don't even know if Immutable X will be around in a year. Maybe somebody might take the idea of what Immutable X is doing and then add on to it. Like for instance, we saw in the browser wars in the early in the 90s. What are we left now with Google Chrome? But back then was Netscape Navigator, Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves, all these different ones. And then there's only maybe a couple of that are left afloat.
100%. Do you use it or are you familiar with it at all?
Which one?
Immutable X.
I know. I've just played around and looked around at the websites, and I've just looked at some of the underlying technology, like Starkware, and I believe it uses rollups, right? Yeah, Starkware is a type of rollups. Yeah, yeah, and all that stuff is so new right now, and
it doesn't.
There's already another project coming out called Celestia that's taking it all to another level.
Saw that. Yeah,
and so. Who knows, if Immutable X will be around or if it'll be supplanted by something else like that, and we know where we're going. So what I'm just trying to do is just follow the tech and just dollar cost average into the industry as a whole.
That makes sense.
Web3, because at this point right now, if you know about Web3, you're probably going to make it,
Yeah, absolutely. There are some really great aspects of Immutable X, like we were saying, Starkware alone, right? The one thing about them, I'm of two minds, and I'm currently invested, but I use their platform. I like trade a little bit, like you say, like you go in there and sort of play around, see what's cool, and it was very cool. It was very easy. But it's just slow, and it's slow transaction wise. So if I put Ethereum, the first time I ever put Ethereum onto Immutable X, it took probably 40 minutes, and I'm just freaking out. And I'm in the Discord, and they're totally overwhelmed by people who are waiting 40 minutes. So they just don't it's just kind of a customer experience thing, honestly.
Yeah.
And then when you withdraw ETH, I've been waiting on a withdrawal for probably 3 days, I would say.
And well, the whole Ethereum bridging thing, I don't think that's necessarily immutable X, but
for sure. But I'm just saying the experience of it, if this is going to grow, and I think gaming obviously is so actually user based that if the customer experience for people whose entry is gaming, but not they don't really understand that bridges are vulnerable and they have to take extra precautions and all of the stuff that you don't know about if you're just a gamer, like that type of thing, it just seems like the user base would have a hard time growing, right? Like really fast to me.
Yeah, the past 3 episodes I've talked about the historical entry point into crypto as being, you learn what a consensus network is and proof of work and blockchain technology and all that stuff. And then that used to be the way people got into crypto, and that's why a lot of people didn't get into it, because you had to learn all these conceptual cryptographic concepts. And then now we have gamers coming into it, and they don't care about decentralization and proof of work and your private and public keys. They just want it to work fast.
Absolutely.
You're sitting there for 3 days on a bridge.
And rightfully so, right? I remember the first time I bought Bitcoin, it was frightening. Like, you don't know what your money's turning into. You're in your mind, you're like, am I giving this to the Ethereum god? Like you just don't know what it's doing. So every time after that, it gets a little bit easier until you're like, oh, why don't I put $1,000 in a Chrome extension that I have zero clue how it works, but it's cool if the fox goes around when my pointer.
It does something.
Yeah.
I remember specifically in 2019, and I was mowing lawn and I was listening to Sergey Nazarov talk about Chainlink. The whole concept of somebody was asking him, was like, so you mean I have to go to an exchange and put my dollars and buy something like Ethereum first or Bitcoin first, and then trade that over to Chainlink, go even further deeper into the crypto space? And they're like, and how do I pull that out to get my money? And he's like, well, he goes, you already have money. First of all, it's just in the digital space. He goes, but you would have to, trade it back to Ethereum, then trade it back for crypto. So it's like 2 levels, and it's very scary for people who don't know, crypto, and, it just doesn't feel safe. It's the shaking of the foundations.
So this is something I want to ask you. I actually pre-planned. I went against. I violated my improv standards and pre-planned a question. Because it's something that's on my mind right now.
Okay.
So with the spectrum of NFTs, what NFTs can be, everything from whatever, house title, medical records, art, cartoon pictures, music, and then sort of people are doing more visual stuff, and it's sort of finding its way to every possible centralized sort of entity. It's coming for it, right? So what in your mind, and with the context of what we just talked about, like a barrier to entry, considered, how do you reach an audience, do you think, if you're making sort of comedy NFTs, whether that be sketch or does that look different from stuff you see on YouTube, or are you speaking to a different audience? I've been mulling this question over. I'm just interested in what you would think.
Comedy sketch NFTs, like NFT, like video clip NFTs?
I don't know. Is that what it is? I think so, right?
I mean, there's a guy that started a news organization called Good Morning News Club or something like that. I can't remember. But he has attached NFTs to audio video clips and scrolling through morning crypto news. And he puts it on OpenSeas and sells those as NFTs. So once you have one of the NFTs, every morning, all you do is look in your MetaMask wallet and you get to see the morning news that are NFTified, you know, and permanently on the blockchain. And it's a weird concept, and I can send you the link after this. But I could see a lot of other different types of use cases coming from it, like your daily comic strip as an NFT. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And but what that does is, instead of going to an exchange and buying Ethereum and then, or buying Bitcoin, then having to buy some other type of shite coin and then having to watch it go up or down and then buy or sell at some point, or put it in a DeFi app, that kind of puts it 2 steps away from the dollar for a lot of people who consider the dollar still safe. Instead, NFTs, like for instance, in the gaming world, you know, that gold or that sword or that skin or that image, something tradable, you know, as a currency in a way. So it's not too far removed from a dollar, because it's like an item you've bought, rather than just some kind of weird thing on a white paper that you're speculating on.
Right. So, okay. So like how does the person interact with an NFT? Like the NFT is always, it's one NFT that is giving you morning news every time, or
I'm not sure the specifics of it, but I mean, you can use NFTs as passes, you know, and tickets in a way. Yeah. And I thought about here in Austin, they have the Continental Club, and I have a friend that, you know, he's the manager there. And I was just like, man, if you could just like make your website to where it's NFT gated, and then do, you know, somebody buys an NFT pass and you can time that pass for just even one show or a season pass or whatever. I go, they would not have to give you all their credit card information, address, phone number, and all that crap. And all they have to do is just buy the Continental Club NFT, and then they could log into the live stream and see the shows every damn night from their, you know, from their living room, and watch the bands without having to go find parking on Congress Avenue, you know?
Yeah. I mean, have you seen the clips of people that buy the front row Lakers NFTs? That shit is bonkers. I mean, it looks, obviously it's, you're watching the game from like Jack Nicholson's seat. Even though he got banned for spilling chili on the floor. Did you see that?
Did he? Yeah, well, see, there's another use case. So in a way, what we were talking about, NFTs don't really separate you that much from your dollars, as in the case of some kind of speculative white paper crypto, you know, ICO or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am your absolute like typical insufferable crypto guy that like, when I'm talking to someone, especially because I have a lot of artist friends who do really great things, and I'm like, I can't convince them. I'm like, there is no downside to you putting your music as an NFT.
Yeah.
Just to experience what that's like. Like that, there's zero downside to it. You should, and people just, they don't want to do it. And I also, I'm like, totally like,
yeah, same thing with canvas painter artists. I'm like, all you got to do is just take a photo of it, and just like, I can help you. Just like, do it. You know, and they're like, I like to touch things. I'm like, all right, man. Yeah. Anyway, I'm at an hour. I normally go like 30 to 40 minutes, but we're just.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's quite all right. I enjoy this. This is, you know, the whole point was I really enjoy this conversation. I would love to have you back on and, you know, talk about some more stuff. And
Sure.
Yeah. So is there anything you want to say as far as closing comments, maybe how to reach you, if you even want anybody to reach you? The last guest, he said, no, I don't want anybody to reach me. So
yeah, I'm not into being reached.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. But I don't.
Fair enough.
I'm all right without it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you reaching out to me and encouraging me as well, and social media, because whenever I put myself out like this, it's a scary place to be as well. So yeah, it's nice to see hear the positive feedback.
Oh yeah, such a great show. I really enjoy it. Thanks for having me on. And I guess my last thought is TA is not as bad as it sounds. Use it to whatever you want to use it for, but absolutely just look at the chart on TradingView because it just gives you so much more like insight and sort of feeling about a certain thing.
Okay.
It doesn't mean,
is that view.com?
TradingView.com.
Okay. Yeah. I'll check that out and
totally free. You don't have to mess with, like lines or anything, but if you're looking at it, you'll start to feel, that's my closing thought. But good.
Okay. Right on. I'll play the outro here. And to everybody who's watched this, thanks for watching. I hope you've got a lot out of it. And give a thumbs up or a like or whatever. It just helps. I don't know if it helps the algorithm as much as it just helps my own ego. So, hey, I'll take it. All right. Bye.
Funny how they're the same thing.
Thank you for making it to the end of this program. If you actually like this content, give a thumbs up. And if you want to hear more, just hit the subscribe button. I'm available on YouTube, Odyssey, and BitChute, and on all the major podcasting platforms in audio version. Spotify specifically. If you would like to follow and leave a review, that would help a lot. I am also available on Twitter at EurekaJohn1. That's EUREKA John, JOHN, and the number 1. My DMs are always open. Feel free to shoot me a message. Thanks again.